helps.
And I think like, I know like it's late, so maybe like, we've been in touch with the woman that does communications in the library, so the more we have it linked in places, it like, it boosts them.
I've been going to it a lot this last week, and it kept popping up really nicely.
Good.
Yeah.
Maybe we should all go to it once a day.
Right.
So actually, like our, just mark it and refresh.
All right, event subcommittee, who's leading that conversation?
I'll start and then, Ray and Rick and Deb, chime in. So as the event subcommittee, you can see on the agenda, the main tasks of all the committees that are out there. The ones that are bolded are ones that, there are updates about. And so informational socials, we actually didn't meet, we met through email.
Right.
So we had an, email, train going, and we really are we try to hone in on this first, what we're calling an informational social. And originally, some of the common threads among the committee are to try to have this first one outdoors. And initially I said early May, and Rick said, no, early May on the mid-coast Maine is pretty ambitious.
Yeah, that was gentle.
Yeah. So, we're thinking more late May now, to do this first event. Even early June is fine. We haven't honed in on an exact location, so we were looking, or a theme. We sort of tossed it around, but we really wanted the full committee to give feedback on that. And you guys have anything else? So it's got kind of where we're at is getting full feedback, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we thought a theme, we thought outdoors, and then we thought, interactive as much as possible, so it's not just
Can we do a river walk?
a speaker.
Something weird is happening.
Can we do a river walk? Because I think Lake May might still be chilly and being idle. If we walk, at least we won't get too cold.
Late May's chilly.
We did
Yeah.
also have
We're not down
Massachusetts.
down south.
Right.
I sent an email to Grace, Jeff Scott, and I actually asked him if he would be willing to do that. I haven't heard back from, I don't even know whether they're back in the country yet.
Right.
But if they are, because he was so central to the Riverwalk, that he would be a good person to actually lead the walk and be able to answer questions.
Right.
We were gonna do that in place of our June speaker series event, but if there's a different context to.
Well, it can be
it's
both.
fine.
It can be both. It can be the speaker series fill-in and
Yeah.
event subcommittee, right?
Yeah.
Well, how did other people feel about that, a river walk?
I think the river would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Can you combine it with the cleanup?
Oh,
yeah. Cleanup.
Yeah.
Or we can do two events,
Two?
you know?
Two events?
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Well,
we can
I
do,
think we have to think about, okay, a Riverwalk, I think is a great idea, okay? If we have 50 or 60 people show up for it, how do you really communicate with everybody and include that? And then it's very likely, if it's on a Saturday, on a weekend, we could get a good group to come out for it. And I think we'd have to probably have a pre-meeting with, if Jeff's gonna lead it, as far as, okay, who's gonna take this section and everything like that, get a good idea. There's a couple of places like Cannon Park where you can gather a group around and talk to them, but in other places, you're gonna be a real staggered long line. But I think it's a great idea.
so I think we should think about, the structure and how to organize it, and maybe, there are other people than Jeff, so maybe we can have like, 20, and we stagger them, so no one is exposed to more than 20 people at the same time, if they're like 3 stations or something like that. And then we'll have balloons.
Balloons are good for.
So, I mean, there are a couple sections that are walkable,
Yeah.
right?
I was gonna
There's
say.
the path up by Mount Patty Street to
Yeah.
Ski Bright Dam, which is a path.
Yeah.
Right, it needs no cleanup.
Yeah.
It's super clean, it's brand new. There's, little going on other than stock trout and, So there's that, but like just to interact with it, it's a fast, shallow, straight section of river, so.
But I would say, so, not everybody, one, knows the river. Not everybody understands what is happening in that section of the river. And so, I mean, not everybody has walked along the river.
But I guess
So we can-
that was part of my point, is that I'm thinking like, we should be down in the head of the tide, there will be alewives, they'll be there all the time. See them with your naked eye, you can get them out with your hands, nets, so that's really exciting, and up by Ross and Ave, there's that very walkable section by the like farmers market area by the bridge, totally interactive, and everybody can get down, lots to clean up there. Not much to clean up or access below Ross and Ave, behind the middle school and sewage treatment plant, there's just no getting in there. And then we've got the Seabright Dam section, which is also very walkable, in Hudson Park, basically at Mullen Hill Road.
There's one other big section I can think of, which is behind the skateboard park.
Yeah.
I guess that's one thing is not really acceptable for anybody.
But the view, but no, it
It's
is,
not very long.
it's not very long, it is accessible, and one there, it's,
You can just walking over the bridge.
yeah, you can walk
Walking
over
over
the
the
bridge, and the
bridge,
view is pretty cool,
Yeah.
so.
Lots of Japanese, not really good there.
Yeah, yes.
So-
I was thinking about like crowds of people going in a throng.
No, but I'm not thinking crowds of people, I'm really thinking, staggering, maybe ask people to sign up, so that they can give us an
But I
idea.
agree with that, and downstream below Milton Street are also, they're similarly accessible, but I just wouldn't take a group in there, because like, I don't know if the group can make it in and out.
Okay, so how would you walk them from downtown all the way up to Seabright?
Right, that's what.
Because you have to put in cars.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, and I mean, because I don't know, but if we just don't want the river walk to just be the river down to Montgomery Dam.
no, we want, because we're the whole market.
But I think maybe there's some of those spots that could make sense for vehicles, for people that, like, you could meet it, I mean, the MBA parking lot is owned by the town, like a pretty good spot for a lot of people to park, to go across.
Yeah, yeah.
That section.
Yeah.
We could have it all
The
timed
farmers
out.
market, you know, the Tannery site is a pretty good site.
Because there's no safe way to walk from like Seabright Dam all the way up to Hudson Park.
No,
No, you don't want people walking all over.
No, it's dangerous, yeah.
Anyways, I
but
think-
it's exactly, so who's gonna work on creating this?
Well, it would be a-
That's our events committee.
I think the event subcommittee will take it on, so if there's, unless there's any other. input, but
We
it's-
could also make it over 2 days.
You camp out somewhere.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking, yeah, maybe have it set up, so, Yeah.
It's gonna.
yeah, maybe, it's, let's say it's a Saturday afternoon, a 3 o'clock spot, a 4 o'clock spot, and a 5 o'clock spot, something like
Yeah.
that, so.
What time is the farmer's market? Could it be a post?
9 till 12:30.
9 to 12 on Saturday.
Could be a thing that people could go to the market. It sounds like one of those sites is by the market.
No.
They might go to the market and join.
It is the point of it to get to, like, just look at various sections of the river or to interact with those sections in some way?
Interact and have a speaker or a leader to talk about each of those sections, right?
Because I kind of don't feel like giving this away, but maybe you all know it, but the section behind the Seaboard Park is really good birding in late May. Late May, I call it the honeypot. It's a great place to see birds. So it might be fun to have an early morning birding session there with I don't know, just putting that out there.
Is it also, I mean, could you do? If there's a concern about having a lot of people show up and being able to get a good message, it'd be interesting if you could figure out a way to have an 8.5 by 11 map with like. A written description of what you would talk about at those places, so you could almost do like a. Self-guided tour.
Oh, yeah.
And that way you could actually have, like, if you were at farmer's market, someone could pick it up and. There's a lot of areas that you can probably access and, it'd be interesting which ones are private, which ones are public. But like where. Moss Tents used to be is a really interesting down in there. It's an interesting section of the river that probably a lot of people aren't aware of, or
Where was that? The Basin Mills ruins.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
where Moss Tents used to be. It'd be at the bottom of,
Or not basically Bristol.
We have explicit both for Rick and
Yeah.
myself.
The only Moss tents I know is Belfast.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
And,
Drive down.
What street is that?
Mill Street.
Not bad, Street, Mill Street.
Mount Street runs into Mill Street, and so Mill Street almost continues down.
Yeah.
If there's a jog, but there's an old factory down there.
There's no, yeah.
There's
there's
one-
no-
Really trailer parks.
Right.
It is, down from the trailer park, there's, an access closer to Mechanic Market. It goes down, I believe it's storage now, is that correct?
oh yeah, the Shepherd's on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it's a Shepherd storage now, but that was originally where Moss Tents was. And I believe that there's still some, hydraulic structures back there that are addressed in some of these maps.
Yeah, that's the powder mill ruins.
Yeah.
Right.
Is the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend a bad idea?
Yes,
Bad idea?
yes, yeah.
So we're talking May 20th. I'm not here, I'm at a graduation, or June 3rd. My daughter graduates that day, so. Yeah, yeah, so Memorial Day, most people are traveling and away, it's bad.
It's just a busy
I don't really
weekend.
want
It's a
to
busy weekend.
post it on that weekend.
Okay. All right, what do people think, it was the June?
20th. Oh, May.
There's a thing in Camden called the Poetry Festival that's happening on May 20th, which might be a nice promo, I don't know, anyway, but it's, I don't know the hours, but it's happening throughout Camden on that day. Okay.
So 20th or,
Or 3rd.
yeah, a Saturday is better than a Sunday?
I think a Saturday is good with a rain check on a Sunday, maybe. So this way we can.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So what are we talking about date then? Possibly?
We're either, May 20th, Saturday, May 20th, or Saturday, June 3rd.
So May 20th is the Poetry Festival, and along with the Poetry Festival, Poetry on Windows is gonna be up, if you're familiar with that. It might be kind of cool, and maybe it's too much, maybe it's too much in one day, but the poems are about a lot, trying to be about our local ecology and environment, written by the kids on the windows. Might be kind of a neat synergy, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who would be the right person to reach out to if we wanted to like see if we could get some poetry written?
So then, I think we should be on all the communities.
No.
I will regroup with our committee and we'll, vet this a little bit more.
And if some members of the committee have particular knowledge of pieces of the river, it would be super cool that you, if you want to, like staff, you seem to know that strange area that I've never heard of. So maybe something to think of, yeah,
Well,
but again, no figure the hash.
Unless you want to get a hold of Jeff Scott, I can try to get a hold of Jeff Scott and find out when he'll be back.
Question.
Well, that's what I did today. I
You
just,
did?
yeah,
Yeah, you tried, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You tried, okay.
maybe
That is
people
already-
pestering, he'll get more.
Okay. Okay.
Are we leaning towards the idea of having like a self-guided, but having maybe like a birder and Jeff Scott and just maybe someone to look at their lives?
Right.
you know,
It'd be really easy.
And Jeff may actually have some, matter, hang out at, whole river walk and everything.
Yeah.
And stuff that could be used as a base for some type of a hand to.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Seth and I both vote for June 3rd. I'm in Washington DC on the 20th. June 3rd, the graduation's in Portland in the morning and I can be up here in the afternoon.
Yeah, we'll do the town helicopter.
Saturday, June 3rd.
The farmers market will be running June 3rd.
That gives us a little more time to plan.
Thank you, Susan, for that. The farmers market will start then.
That's the first day?
We'll be running.
Yeah.
I think it starts Memorial Day.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
But it will be run, where it may not be on the
All right, time check, come on, people, move on to.
Time check. So one other thing on the event subcommittee, and Sophie is on our committee, even though she didn't make our first meeting. And she was on a roll when we were meeting right before this meeting, talking about the movie night on October 22nd. So I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
Which is a movie afternoon.
Movie afternoon, sorry.
So, I wanted to chat with Dave Morrison about, organizing a movie afternoon where we could show several documentaries here, like 2 or 3 documentaries in the Opera House. And also have maybe a panel so people could ask questions about the movies and about experiences. And then talking with Forrest, we were thinking of adding the Exeter experience
Yeah,
because,
sure.
yeah,
Exeter, New Hampshire.
Exeter, no,
Yeah.
sure. Because the town found that itself in a very similar situation with managing its river and removing dams. And it would be cool to learn from them and also invite citizens who, like in Camden somewhere, supporting the project somewhere against and have a kind of citizens dialogue between our 2 towns and try to understand, how does change happen? How do you change people's mind? What information do we need? What happened in Exeter that we can replicate here? So that is also morphing a little bit more into maybe something like a river festival, like an October River Festival, where we would have more events around the movie afternoon, and possibly food trucks, although there's a lot of thoughts that need to be going into this idea. And the second thing is I spoke with Ben, I can't remember his last name, Ben Fowley, who runs Points North Institute at this weekend at the film festival. And I'm gonna have another discussion with him about documentary festival and see if there's a collaboration possible, if he has advice for us, if he has movies. So maybe also work them in, and see how we can collaborate together. And the reason why we chose, with Dave Morrison, we chose the date of October 22nd is because everybody's back in school. So kids are in school, parents are around. Sunday afternoon, not a lot of things to do in October. So we should have a good attendance. And we're shooting for 2 or 3 documentaries max so that people don't get maxed out, but also have a panel discussion and really have like a point of engagement there.
Question, I mean, all these different movies and everything, you use the phrase change people's minds. I hope that's not the focus of the movies or the films, and that they are more informative
Sure.
about what can be done and everything, and not propaganda to get rid of dams, and do this and do this. I think that this committee is set up not to try one avenue and one avenue.
I think all points of view are welcome, and I think movie that documents how rivers have been managed and changed are welcome. And those documentaries just document the process. So to me, it's always interesting to learn how people think, what's their resistance point to change?
Mhm.
What can we make to remove those barriers to change? That's also part of what we're doing, but I don't think I'm doing any propaganda right.
Okay.
But if
no,
you attack
okay.
me again doing propaganda,
You use the phrase change people's minds, and I totally reject that.
I understand your objection, but I do think people need to be also open-minded.
Right.
But also changing minds can go in both directions.
Right, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and so, there was a judgment just made that the dams on the Kennebec do not have to be taken down, period, for sand. Yeah, and that was a federal judge, so.
do you think there's a documentary about that? Cause I
don't think there's a documentary about that yet.
The documentaries don't need to I don't know what documentaries will be. They don't need to be about success. They need to be documenting how communities like ours
Mhm.
are managing those assets. What are they doing?
Informative.
Yeah, informative, what I would look for, and, creating dialogue and everything, but, you can get some programs that are trying to hammer down one point of view, and I think that's wrong.
Forrest, how would you bring the Exeter experience into this?
How would I bring
Because
it in?
there's no documentary, correct?
There's no documentary, so the thought that Sophie mentioned, which I think sounds great, is have a panel, have a couple of people, probably a town staff person, the town engineer, and then probably a citizen that was there and part of the process. Be part of the panel, maybe others, and we thought we could bribe them with some good canned lobster or something, to chowder to get them up here, but, I think a panel to give a brief presentation, but to answer questions, because I don't know how long the process was, but it was a long process and there was opposition and, you know, they can tell the story.
I was gonna say, just a suggestion that not the, what I'm used to in terms of panel discussions, which can be deadly, even if the topic is great. Have them do it as a form of storytelling.
Sure,
That always works.
storytelling with question and answer,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you can have 2 or 3 people just tell different parts of the story.
yeah.
I mean, it's not gonna be a PowerPoint panel. No, that's not the point.
Please.
What is really dialogue, is really asking questions, how did you do this in your town, you know? What are we learning through this documentary, from
Yeah.
other towns who have gone through this?
Yeah, maybe just a couple slides, you know, just showing the pictures. I'm looking at it right now on Google Earth, so just to kind of give people perspective.
I think this sounds great. 2 to 3 documentaries plus a panel sounds like a really long day to me.
Yeah, well, it depends on the length of the documentary, and so,
Yeah.
some of them are not necessarily a full feature films.
Got it. So
Right, so it's like
we're not talking about like a 6 or 8 hour event, you know, people need to go. Okay.
Can I interject one event idea before we move on?
Sure.
Everybody, okay, I don't know if Elsie wanted to talk about this first.
I
though,
totally
that's the thing.
forgot to do this for you. so
It's
yeah.
okay. So we're part of the Stewardship Education Alliance, and Elsie's on the board, does all the work, I'm on the advisory board, do less work. But there's a fair coming up, that, so SEA brings together, convenes a bunch of different environmental groups on June 2nd, the Friday. But it's from noon to 5, and they're asking us if we want to set up a table and just eat it. And it's a great way, there's a lunch first, it's a great way to meet other groups and maybe partner or discuss what you're doing, you know, and, I think it's a great opportunity, so.
Where is it at?
Oh, we can't do the library.
Oh, the library, yeah,
In the-
indoors or out?
Hopefully
We'll see, but yeah.
Right. And it'd be a great promo for our river walk the next day.
Yeah.
And I think it
Yeah.
would just be, I mean, it varies from people bringing a lot of things, and some people bringing just having a table which we supply and, you know, a tripod or something, or nothing at all. But, it can be just people, being present at the table to answer questions.
And newsletters, print out, right?
Sure, yeah.
The map, I think it's a good idea.
And lunch is on SEA, or has it worked? Oh, yeah, I think it's being,
I think it's on SEU,
yeah.
yeah, there's a lunch,
I can't remember.
we try to.
the filters, but it's great, free lunch.
Which one again?
It's the Stewardship Education Alliance Fairs.
It's called the SEA Fair.
Stewardship,
Education Alliance Fair, okay.
So it's not open to the public. It's like.
No, it is.
Oh, I know, it's yeah, it's for
But
community.
what we have found is that it's, so it has sort of two functions. One is to, let the public know about all the different kinds of entities that are working on environmental issues. And there's that. And then the other thing that, has been a surprising, really nice thing is having those groups get to know what each other is doing and talk about. So that just happens sort of organically. It's not set up by us, but anyway, it's for the public.
That is very good.
Could we parking lot, like, would one of you be willing to kind of give like an overview of what SEA does maybe at the next meeting? Cause I know it comes up a lot.
Yeah, no, we need to, yeah, that'd be great.
Cool,
That's great.
so first movie afternoon, community forums.
yeah, it's not bolded, so no update.
I know.
But I just left it on there so people
Thank
know
you.
what else is on our list.
As usual, I'm not missing you. Instructions. Education Subcommittee, public Q&A review, discuss before going live. Maggie, you wanna?
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Thank you.
Please, chime in others if you have something to add. So on Friday, when we circulated the meeting agenda, we also sent a draft frequently asked questions for the website. So the education committee subcommittee had gone through all of the articles in the paper and the questions that Megunticook has received. And, we kind of looked at those themes and tried to pull out from that list, themes and questions that we've been seeing, so that we can have an FAQ on the website. So we sent this out, if you all have some time to take a look at it and let us know what you think, this is a starting point. We can definitely add responses to questions that come up in the future, but we would love your, like, eyes on this, or if you don't have time, that's okay, just let us know. And we would at some point like to get this launched on the website.
That was the thing included on the material.
Yes.
Yeah, it's something on Friday.
I thought it looked great.
Patty, are you thinking that once the committee says this is ready to go, that the entire thing can be
Put it
put
up
up
on the
at
website.
once? And then as new questions come in
Mhm.
and they're answered, you just add it, so it's additive?
Yes,
I think when we get, I mean, I think I struggle, I mean, right now it's somewhat manageable, because it's like, 10 pages or something like that, but it's gonna get, we'll need to figure out a way, I think, to either tag things or have subheadings that you can expand, and as a question or something. I mean, there's subheadings in here, but I think we'll need to figure out a way to make it easier. And I think you're starting to see some common things in here, like there's a lot of definition stuff that I think like that's something that may even get pulled out of some of these sections, like the sea run fish, you know, like these terms that get used again and again. Flooding, flat flooding, you know, some of these different items, I mean, even Megunticook River. You know, there's a couple different, Megunticook River above a certain point, versus below a certain point, they're very different, so.
so are you thinking, I'm just trying to make sure I understand, of like.
I think some sort of
creating a
tree or
glossary,
something.
or like in the way we organize it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the headings
Yeah.
that we have in here right now, but I think it could be. I envision like a plus minus where it blows out more and more.
Yeah. And then people can see just the question all at once, so they can,
Yeah.
like,
Right, without the answer almost,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Because it is tricky, because the answer starts to take out the volume.
yeah.
And as I read through a lot of these, I get like. You know, I think I would encourage people to read through them, because there's really small nuances in these, and like wordings and. Like terms, it can be like the one word can really be interpreted one way or the other, or can get people wound up. I mean, I see things, and you know, it's hard when you have things, you start talking things like property value going up as a result of work on the river.
We don't know that.
And
Yeah.
some people see that as good, and some people see it as bad, so, and it may be something that if it's controversial and it's not related to the item in question.
Take it out.
We just take it out.
Yeah.
And I think, on a lot of these, I think I would treat them as fluid too, so I think. They're gonna change, and there's gonna be additions to them. But that was my comments.
It's great, yeah, even when we post them, even writing it at the top, like.
Yeah,
It does sound like maybe a glossary, like you had sort of touched on for the moment, might be a good idea though. There
Yeah.
are a lot of sort of definition questions, if we have a page or whatever, that's just sort of the.
yeah, I do that.
Here's just sort of what we're talking about, because, yeah, that may make a lot more sense for people if they have the terms more mastered.
So you're saying there's two different pages, one of the
Yeah,
Q&A, one of the.
right, yeah, if there's balance for just semantics questions going on, then maybe, yeah, just a sort of one shot. kind of
Okay, link it
definition
too.
too, yeah. Well, yeah, that'll make it, yeah.
That's more work.
That's a good point. One of the questions that came up was like, what does the committee think, how does the committee define resilience? So I actually went back and rewatched
Right.
our discussion of that. It's like, oh, we talked about this,
Yeah, we did, yeah.
one word.
Right.
Right,
Right, yeah, that's a good answer.
Triggering word, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I think it's often just people tend to think of it as like ecological resilience is what you're meaning rather than.
I think resilience is really hard to define and can be a rabbit hole. Because everybody has their own understanding of resilience. and we should,
But if we use it, we should be clear about what we need.
This is what resilience means to the
to
MRC.
to the meeting for in,
This
talk about,
purpose.
yeah, this is our definition.
And do we have a consensus agreement on what that is?
You have to view that meeting, right?
Yeah, it's well stated in the.
Yeah,
I mean, what
we
we
did
did-
talk about it at length at one point,
We
so,
did,
yeah.
several months ago.
And you can also, instead of trying to have a definition, you can focus on the attributes of resilience.
Right.
These are the attributes we think are, conducive to resilience.
And again, that same mode of organization, I think we should probably, put numbers associated with them, so that you can actually reference it.
The corrections, yeah. But like, so you can tell someone, go see question 6.
Yeah, I got a bunch of comments, but they're like, I'm like, oh, which. I don't know.
Middle of the third page.
Yeah, yeah, the PDF, so yeah, how do you want us to?
Oh, can
respond?
we send it as a Word document?
You can send it as a Word document.
Yeah.
So you can see
So
our-
you will get out.
Right away.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll send it as a Word document, and if you wanna add changes, just do it in track changes.
Okay,
Or put it on a Google Drive, so everybody can comment at the same time, you only have one
There
copy.
you go.
But still do it in track changes, so
Yeah.
we know what the comments are.
Google Drive is suggesting.
Yeah, you can change, edit to suggestion.
It's suggestions, it's not editing.
yeah,
Editing in Google Drive does not track, suggesting in Google Drive tracks.
Thank you.
Did you have a deadline for you on that,
What feels reasonable? I mean, it's pretty dense reading. Like, by the next meeting, we wanna try to get them out before that.
Get it out.
yeah,
I think just get it out.
Get it out, we've been talking about this for like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A long time.
That's not the.
I mean, you could put out the
And-
ones.
and even if things are- and even if you get edits after the fact.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I mean, it's a live document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you, let's see, how about if we post by sometime next week, Wednesday the 12th?
Yes,
Perfect.
So everybody's comments have to be
So
invited
when can you do
By
it?
Tuesday.
by Monday. Monday close of business comments, does that give you enough time to launch on Wednesday? Or
Depends on
Depends on the comments.
Yeah.
right.
If people change it, wordsmithing, like, that's fine. If it's like big conceptual ones, we might have to like pull a question for the launch on Wednesday.
Yeah. So deadline is Monday, close of business.
Perfect.
It's Easter Monday, what else do you have to do? Awesome. Monthly educational speaker series update and discussion on format. Who's leading that discussion? Am I leading it again or?
Yeah, well, let's see, I guess. Courtney or Susan, do you wanna update on our conversation with Darren? We can actually start, Susan and I are meeting with
Right,
Ken, which
right.
is gonna be April.
And he has sent an outline.
Yes.
And I've gone over and done some research with him, so he's looking at a number of different things, and I think tomorrow, at least we'll have a better idea where it stands. But, he's very knowledgeable, I mean, he's always lived in Camden, I think he will be able to give us a really good timeline of what went on and how things have changed over time. And this will be Tuesday, yeah, it's 2 weeks.
18th.
2 weeks, yeah. And it's the standard format of 4:30, he talks for 20 minutes, and then there are 40 minutes of questions.
You're talking about kangaroos?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's a different name. So
No,
it's gonna be-
Ken Gross.
Got it.
No, Darren,
Right now.
yeah.
There.
Okay.
Yeah, so April and Susan and I are meeting with Ken tomorrow, but you're doing a lot of the legwork and.
Right, and so I've been working on a timeline, and things I have some of that, and that can go into a newsletter, so at least we have a history of when all the dams were built, and who owned them, and what they were used for, and how they changed. And
Yeah.
so
I'm excited.
It's cool, he's good, he's got great plans. He does.
Oh, he knows that.
And he's very pleased that we have asked him as a longtime resident of Camden to talk about this. And I think that's important that we reach out to residents of Camden who've been here a long time and get their points of view.
So maybe we should put a call for action, a call like that on the website, saying, is there a topic you knowledge about? I mean, people can always say yes, we can always say no, but there might be other people with expertise and local knowledge that we don't know of, that could be good, you know. But also through your networks, you might know people who would be great speakers.
And I mean, I still go back to, I really would like to see Save the Dam come and to talk to us and let us know what their concerns are. I mean, to me, that is a very high priority.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I think almost more, you know, even before Darren. Because I really think we need to hear what people are saying. And this sort of, oh, you know, looking into things and studying history, and I think we need to hear from people and we need to hear what their concerns are.
So as I will piggyback on what Ray said a few minutes ago, as long as it's not propaganda.
Well,
So we have to figure, no, but we have to.
but we need to hear what they're saying.
Sure. So
And then,
as long as it's concerned and, but not trying to convince people
no,
and not having a propaganda.
and maybe we'll have answers for some of their questions.
Yeah. As
And
long as
maybe,
it's
maybe
free.
that's something we should say to them, if, when you come, give us some of your questions, then maybe we can have answers for them, so when they talk. But I mean, I really feel that we need to reach out to them and to find out.
Yeah, and I don't wanna be just the only spokesman for that group, or should, yeah, I'm on this committee representing that group a little bit, but I think that there should be others who can come and say something at some point in time.
So, but similar, I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I have a couple things to say about this. I think it's super important that we check ourselves that we're not unbiased, we don't have bias. Partly because it's gonna be a major waste of time if we are seen as being biased, because you know, we will ever say, well, that can, and we'll start over again. So that's huge. And the other thing that I was gonna say is, it seems to me that the environmental viewpoint is pretty, like, I think all the environmentalists have the viewpoint that the dam should be taken down. I'm not sure we have to dig down that particular avenue that much, a lot. What is hard is where the nexus is of the environmental piece and the economic piece and the history piece and the nostalgia piece or whatever. And that's the piece that I think we have to start digging at, because otherwise we're not gonna know where that rub is, because it's very clear where the environmental piece goes.
Yes,
I think.
yeah, I agree.
So it's, yeah, that's why I think we really need to get those other viewpoints in here, because that is the part that is less clear and less, well, it's less clear to me, I'll just say.
And I think good people to, you know, represent that would be some of the shop owners that are right
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
encounter. Because
Right,
they're all very
Russell would be-
unified in their concern.
I agree. Right, and you know, what are your concerns?
Yeah.
Are there things that we could do, or that could be done, not we, that can be done that will make you happier with the project?
Or like with Exeter, are there like models of where something has been done where there was similar concerns and those people, I don't know, what was done to alleviate those concerns or address them in some way, or what was the outcome? Were those concerns valid in the end, or, you know, that, I think that might be a good way of kind of matching them up with.
And the other thing that I was thinking about was the dam maintenance for all the town, and looking at what the town does spend on dam maintenance. And I know you said that they're coming up for inspections. I think, you know, we need to find out, you know, if we only do Montgomery Dam, what about Knox and Knowlton? They're privately owned. Do we need to talk to those owners and say, hey, maintenance or the ability to change some of the way it's built needs to be part of this, and how do we go
And
about doing it?
I'd love to talk to this group about the dilemma of, you know, owning 4 dams, 3 of them are high hazard, and the priority always having to go to the high hazard dams.
Mhm.
For, you know, for good reason. So,
Yeah, right.
you know, I do think maybe having, the past and present dam control agents.
Yep,
To
right.
come in and also.
Yeah.
I know people get really upset when we talk about flooding. It's a real thing, having to balance managing lake levels, managing impoundment levels. storms when we have to make sure that we opened up the lake and let enough water out so that we're not
Right.
going to flood downtown.
But if
And
the
that-
town is only working on Montgomery Dam to maintain it, what about the other two dams? Do we need to go to those owners and say, hey, you know, there is an issue here, can you work with us? And, you know, what are we spending on flooding in town because of this? And I think that's a huge thing to look at.
So that's
Two big
three
ones.
speakers,
Yeah.
that's three speaker series that we did. So the first one with the Save the Dams. I mean, we may need to look at the sequence, what's
Right.
logical in terms of information gathering.
Right,
But so we have Save the Dams, the
the
maintenance.
dam maintenance,
Dam
right, and whether it's
The dam-
stormwater.
I
it's
think
a
with-
problem or
with
dam maintenance
Dam, it
or-
could be like dam management
Mhm.
and, and
Yeah.
kind of like
Right.
the capital planning for dam.
Right.
improvements.
And how do we talk to the owners of the two dams that are private, you know?
Well, that's pretty easy. They're,
Okay.
yeah,
They're
they're
pretty
pretty
happy when we pick up the tab.
Audrey, isn't it just one owner?
two now.
Two.
So Matt Goldpine and
Yeah,
Matt
Matt.
Warren.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, Susan, I have a question.
Matt Warren still owns one of them?
Yeah, the Knowles Street dam.
Just to piggyback on your question, and I know we have a time constraint, but you know, with the Save the Dams group presentation, you know, do you have a vision for it? Do we just do it the same way with a 20-minute presentation and questions and answers? And are they telling their story? I mean, I think you want some guidance from the committee on that, right?
Or do they come into an MRCAC meeting and that's not a speaker series?
I think the Q and A or, you know.
It should be two. Yeah, we
And
can
it
have
could be just if they come here.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's an article on Maine Coast TV that Ron Hawkins wrote.
Mhm.
And he talks about, you know, the truth of Montgomery Dam. I have a copy of it, and you know, it's sort of like, well, wait a minute, you know, what is the truth? And he says, these are the truths. Well, is that really the fact? And do we need to come back to him and say, this is what we know, but these are good questions. We need to look at this.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important.
Yeah, and just for a quick perspective, Ron Hawkins is probably the only person in, you know, mentioned in there who actually has owned the dam.
Yes. You want to be able to freedom?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, Freedom, no, it was in somewhere else. It was out
Liberty?
Freedom. I don't remember.
We talk, yeah.
I don't remember.
But his article on Maine Coast TV
Mhm.
website,
Yeah.
which I'm not sure we're tracking, which we probably should track.
yeah.
Because Barbara Dyer's article on all of the dams and the history of the river and the dams is on that as well.
Yeah.
But- And then Courtney, and
We need to have a good film festival, sorry.
yeah, it would, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the three of us talked, Maggie and Courtney and I talked to Darren. My concern with Darren is he's very knowledgeable, but I'm not sure he's what we need at this point, maybe later in time. I don't know how you feel about it. His expertise is with the Native Americans. He's a Passamaquoddy.
He's
Not
not
Scott.
yeah, he's a member of the nation.
And
also
he's a
professor of UMaine.
professor at UMaine.
Social anthropology. His education and his background is incredible.
Amazing.
And he's given lots of presentations on the Penobscot, Wabanaki, indigenous issues, tilted a lot towards environmental issues. He has a background also in environmental law, but, yeah, so we had a great conversation with him. It's about maybe what he can talk about. We're hoping that he can help us better understand what this area looked like, how it was utilized by the Penobscot, before colonialism. But yeah, the question I guess is, at what point do we wanna bring that in? And he's ready to meet in May, whatever that is, the May 16th or something.
Yeah, we had definitely sketched him in for May 16th and he is available and willing. He does charge a small fee, it's $300 to have him come, which we feel is reasonable to.
But he's more of an anthropologist than a historian.
He is.
And his
Right.
comment was that he would have to do some research.
Yeah.
As to who was in this area. And that to me is concerning because I think what we want to know is who was in this
No,
area
I
and.
got a different question about that.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, so I think when we know it was Penobscot and well, broader, conservancy, but it's not for them, but I think his point was the tribes, didn't really like stay put necessarily, there was a lot of like, he was explaining how like the male family would go to another tribe and marry into other tribes, and so it's really hard to explain who was here, because it was just a lot of, anyway.
So
I think that's the thing, like.
But I'm gonna table this discussion, so I think I'm gonna table this discussion because we're gonna be short on time and we have two big items coming up. I think you're concerned that it's not ready, the timing is not correct.
I think there are other people, other places we should go first.
Okay, so I think that's a valid,
That's really
that's,
valid, you know, maybe other people disagree, but that's my.
well, you talked to him, we didn't. So, and we have other, like, speaking it up, right, so.
We haven't connected with anyone else, so I guess my only concern would be getting someone in time.
Right.
But I do hear what you're saying, and I know we don't want to belabor this, but I did get a similar message that we wouldn't go into it, like, this is not gonna be like a history of the Megunticook River and how
No,
Native people use the Megunticook, it's gonna be more of like a cultural explanation of how, in general, the Wabanaki people were connected to the river.
right, and what current Wabanakis or Penobscot, I should say, would like to see in rivers today.
Right.
Is more of that, and I think that's great, and that's.
I'm really gonna stop this. So I think we're all in agreement that it's a really good speaker, a really good idea, but not in time. I think we can do the dam maintenance in May.
I think first is good, I think, follow Ken Rose. That would be fine too.
Okay, so so you're thinking,
Yeah.
you're, yes, so should, I mean, is this a conversation that we can have over email, or things like we need to keep talking about this?
Yes, if you don't think we can have an email, instead of the next two speakers here.
Right.
Or also people who just come here and talk to
Because we're
us.
further out.
We're further out.
And
Yeah,
maybe
maybe
say the
we-
dam
yeah.
comes here. I don't know, someone from say the dam comes here.
Yes, we could do that too. So we need, so we have identified topic speakers. We need to find dates. This is great. This is a good problem to have. It's awesome. I'm just moving us along because there's a few other things left in the. So we're moving to the written communication subcommittee. So the public survey. Another one of the topics that if we don't give it enough time, it's not gonna happen. That's why I wanted to move to this conversation. And we have 7 minutes for this conversation. Okay. We have later. Are you ready?
I think Mindy's been working with the written communications committee on the public surveys, so if anyone that's been involved in that process wants, do you want to give the update? I can give a very high level update, or you can give more detail.
I mean, we don't have too much to say other than just put this survey together.
Yeah.
We, Elfie and I and Mindy kind of brainstormed and thought about what we want to include, what we don't. It was great to get insight from everybody. Is there a question you don't like, or we shouldn't ask? Is it implying things like, it's just little nuances like that that we weren't sure about.
Right at the end, I would take out that little thing about income. I think that's none of our business.
I had that same question. The income was,
Yeah, gender, age, education, maybe okay, but income, no.
we were just thinking it would be interesting, but it might ruffle some feathers.
However,
I have the same,
I would add in there, whether the person is a full-time or a part-time resident in Camden,
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
great question.
okay?
Or how
You
long?
could find out if they were born here or not.
Yeah, just how long.
I don't know. Okay, fine.
Lived here.
That's that.
Okay, fine, but I think full-time or part-time important. And also, I think would be interesting to know is if they own property of some type on the watershed.
Good point.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a question about, like, do you depend on the river for income? I don't know.
Oh, well.
Or maybe it's something like you. do you live or work within 100 feet of the river? Or a mile of the river, or yeah, if you could do 3 different distances that.
Yeah.
So my question is, I think that is fun. What are we gonna do with that information?
I think we won't know just yet, honestly, like, I think
We'll
there's
know
so
when we
many
get it.
fascinating things that come out of surveys that you don't even expect. So I
Okay.
think that's part of it, but it's also, I think some of the questions are like, you know, how did you learn about this? Or like just basic things about how we can hone our newsletters or outreach, what interests you about the river, okay, so now we know people want to know about, or why, you know, why do you care, that's gonna be just interesting, but what do you want to learn about, that would inform our outreach. So there's different, I think, things we can.
Do you feel there's value in like question 6? As opposed to making it black and white, what are your top, like rank each one of these as far as your importance? Or,
I would say top 3, first of all.
I guess my question is, would it be nice to have someone say,
Like a blank.
least important, most important for each one of these things, so you get, as opposed to.
Wait, say that again?
So like
For each one, have
So
to
for
be.
each one, you have 0 to 5, and
Oh, okay, yeah.
which one of these things are,
But also, some of the, so I agree with this, I like this. On the formulation, you have river and health ecosystem, but you have reducing dam maintenance, reducing flood risk, preparing for climate change, attracting tourism. So I would just, dam maintenance cost. Is that a concern, 0 to 5?
yeah,
Not reducing that.
Like, yeah,
Well,
I get
it's-
stuck on that because
I know
people they could be,
Yes, but you could
Yes.
also say improving river and ecosystem health. But you don't do that.
is there an answer?
You could say improving river and ecosystem health and reducing dams. So either each one of those topics have
I see what
a
you're saying.
consequence to them, or they don't. And I think if they don't,
Yeah, this one's tricky, this one's.
No,
really-
it's very tricky.
I haven't been so hard about that, it's like,
so the
I
question
don't
is,
want to say like reducing gym costs necessarily. I don't know. I think it's a longer conversation.
Yeah, and
Oh, that's right.
yeah, I'd love to weigh in. I took a couple courses in survey design.
Oh, good.
excellent.
A way to do it, and I told Maggie, there's a whole University of New Hampshire survey department that we could run this by,
Oh,
and
awesome.
things like that, so,
Awesome.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, cause like Tyler said,
Thank
there's
you.
ways to
Great
sort of
work.
frame things that will give you the better data at the end.
Exactly.
Thank you, yeah.
Definitely.
I didn't have time to really get to this, to be honest, like really.
No, hold on. Go ahead, go finish. Okay, you finish, right?
Do we have a time when we would like to have this ready to go out to people?
I said,
This
it would
summer?
be nice, but I think it'd be really, I think it's more important to get it correct. like,
Yes, okay, right, okay.
So, but I don't know,
So,
yeah,
so-
as soon as possible.
So I have a couple of comments. One, I think I would just have our mission statement in the beginning and not a long dialogue of what we are and what we're doing. I would just state our mission statement. I think that questions 1 and 2 are not necessary because the people are taking the survey. And then one thing that I think that you might want to ask is,
No, but, sorry, the question is, before the survey, were you aware of the committee?
yeah,
I think we could ask a different question, but it would be nice to know if, like, how many people knew about us or.
okay. All right.
I see.
And then one thing that I thought is, how important is this study to you? In other words, rank it according to harbor flooding, taxes, schools, housing, available housing. In other words, how important is this? Or is sea level change more important in your mind? Or is the fact that we don't have housing? Or our taxes are too high? I think it'd be interesting to see where this ranks.
Excellent.
Excellent. Cool, so you'll take it to the University of New Hampshire.
When we
have-
think we're a little more refined,
Right.
we have what we want,
So what's the timeline from everybody to weigh in on those comments, same thing, we can put it up on the Google Drive and the comments?
yeah, What do you-
By Wednesday,
a week.
let's do a different deadline,
Okay.
different deadline.
Is it gonna be revised for us to look at again, or just
No.
comment to this? Not you, Courtney. Not you.
On this.
I have one other comment, too, on question number 4. I would list those and circle all that apply to you. In other words, circle all the ones that are important, so sort of list
Okay.
We can make these few small edits before we put them. in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Cool. And then our deadline,
Let's see, so the deadline for any comments on FAQs is the 10th, so maybe the next week,
the 17th. Okay with everyone?
That's
And it's on the
Weekends
Google
back
Doc.
to back. Is that obnoxious to have a deadline on Monday like that after a weekend?
Is it better to have that
Friday.
Friday or Monday?
Monday's good.
Monday's better, okay.
Monday's great for us, because then we start the weekend, we have a project to do.
You're not doing, or you had your hand raised?
Yeah, I think, two questions. The first one is, do we see the survey as a stamp in time and we give it out and it comes back to you and that's it? Or do you see this as in
Baseline.
something that there are copies of it left at the town office, there are copies left at
Good question.
local coffee shops, other places where people pick them up, you have them on bulletin boards, people grab one.
Yeah.
And they're slowly matriculating in and that data just keeps adding to it.
That's what I was envisioning.
Other suggestion I had was, the Camden Herald was recently on a new format.
Yep.
So it would be interesting to talk to Reed if you could just have a whole page
Yep.
where someone could take it and
Turn it in.
just turn it into the town office.
Yeah.
Before you think about that, maybe while Forrest is speaking to the University of New Hampshire people about the design of the questions, you should also speak to them about how you get a sample,
That's right.
because if you want this to actually
Yeah.
mean
Yeah.
something, it's gotta be statistically, like, it has to be a random sample, it's gotta be statistically representative, you gotta have a certain amount, you gotta.
yeah, it's a big deal, and, ideally.
And what's the line to go out?
Yeah, ideally, this could go out.
Yeah, you just set it down and just get whatever you want.
Absolutely.
It's not gonna
That's not, well, no, if you broadcast, then you have to do a lot of data mining to, you data cleaning, so you have your sample.
Sure.
So it's easier to target at the beginning than to broadcast.
Well, in a perfect world, it goes out to all Camden residents.
And they all return.
Right, but even if they don't, right, even if they don't.
Only gonna have
If
that,
you
but
get
yeah.
you get a significant sample size out of that, but I know sending out to all Camden residents might be challenging.
Actually, there's a way that we could do it,
Okay.
but, yeah, anyway. Well, it would be, yeah, it would be good to figure out like what what they're recommending.
Right, because if it goes to everyone, then it's not gonna be skewed as much, right? It's everybody.
So one of the reasons we put
Oh,
the
the
summary
text
at the top of it was because we thought it might be the first time people see anything about our committee. And I thought it would be nice to just get a little, preview of who we are.
Fine. I think
But
Susan-
it would- here's what was the reason to take that out?
Make it read.
Here's
You're gonna
the-
lose people.
Oh, okay, it's too long.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a plan. So we're gonna upload it on the Google Drive. Last call for comments, Monday, April 17th. We're gonna work with Audra on the sampling for the town. We're trying to rock and roll this survey as soon as possible. I like the question set of, Tyler, of whether it's a baseline or it's a snapshot, and
Really good question.
I mean, well,
Some questions are baseline, some questions are. Right. But if we want it to be a baseline, maybe we put other additional questions in there.
I would hate to put like a deadline and then receive things after that and say, it's just kind of, I guess I'm trying to, I think
I
it's
get
nice
you.
to.
Well-
I always think the more data is better.
Well,
Well-
yeah, I mean,
for sure.
well, to be baseline would be.
Yeah, let's
Let's see.
Let's put this on the next meeting agenda. I guess, I don't think we need to rush this out. We had a
No.
good start. We've gotten a long ways, but I think there's a lot of details, so we'll get it out carefully and slowly.
Okay,
Maggie, can you send a reminder out to us before that weekend to take a look at this survey and get final comments and everything into you?
awesome. So we're now moving to I'm not gonna say this properly.
I thought that was fine.
Yeah.
Gentlemen's
Yeah.
fish discussion and Megunticook story photo contest.
And those are kind of lumped together. I
Yes.
don't know why I did that. Those are two
So you're
separate.
gonna run.
Those are two separate. Well, I was gonna pass to Seth to kick off the diagramus and.
Yeah,
that we'll
And
take
what
care
does
of.
it mean, Gutterman?
so,
Is this my
happy to, talk a little bit more about fish with everybody. And these are the fish that, we know of as spending part of their life in freshwater and part of their life in saltwater. And so they're in two major groups, diadromous fish are. There's the anadromous fish groups, and we kind of think of like salmon as the archetypal anadromous fish, something that is a little tiny egg way up in the headwaters of its natal estuary and then turns into a slightly bigger version of itself and goes downstream where it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and changes color and then goes up to the open ocean and feeds to grow big, maybe for 1 year, maybe for 3 years, maybe for 5 years, and it might make 3 spawning runs, it might make 1 spawning run, but nonetheless, they return to their native stream to then lay eggs for the cycle. So that's the anadromous fish, the one that goes to the ocean to grow big, and to come back and lay lots of eggs, distribute lots of milk and make lots of baby small fish. And then catadromous fish are a really fascinating mixture where they go to the freshwater or to brackish water to get their size and to become big adults. And they do something else different either in oceans or in inshore waters where they are little. So the American eel is kind of the best example of this, especially because we have them locally and they're just so fascinating to watch. But their little tiny larvae drift up here in the Gulf Stream from the Sargasso Sea, and then they swim inshore and getting closer and closer to close to where their native rivers are. They start to swim up those little creeks and we're down in the Megunticook and in all the area watersheds as of right now. And obviously they are just capable of amazing feats as a fish, but as a larvae, it's especially incredible because they can swim up pretty like sheer faces of rock and building and stuff like ledge. If there's just a film of water on it, they swim up those little veins or that little film of water to get to the next little part in their journey. And then as adults, and Nate talked about this a little bit as he was kind of going on about fish that he loves to study, because as he told the story, like this is the only fish that knows you. And kind of the way I heard that as a fish enthusiast too, is that this is just an incredibly ancient species and they have been around us for the whole time. And so, yeah, they know us like really well. And I mean, they have evolved right along our side, as have we with them. And so the American eel is just kind of a really especially kind of easy species to remember as probably the only one that we have locally as a fish that can walk over and land in the fall as an adult, get back to the ocean, which is probably a female to then go to the Sargasso Sea and spawn. So an amazing life history, all from our front doorstep and our backyard out into the ocean.
So is there a time in the fall where you can see eels on land?
This is, I wish Nate had gone into it in more detail, but I mean, we know it happens. Is there a place? No, like we would all have to be in the woods with flashlights all over the place.
It's just like the other way.
It's the other way. It's like the spookiness of fall when it smells warm and wet and you're like, boy, like things could just be living in the leaves. They are. Yeah, but I would love to try, and it's really probably more around like Oh, we really have to get a hydrologist or somebody who understands quarries a little bit better, but I have heard that quarries, just because of the way that aquifers run out into sheer quarry faces sometimes, that is where feed goes.
But we need to put a call to action on our website, we want somebody who can help us go and spot those eels, that was
Also, it's an endangered species, so we, it's kind of like hands off.
yeah,
So big news about, these species like, pardon this. Yes, fish poop is important nitrogen too, but nonetheless, it's just, I mean, they have so many great qualities, but it's, I don't know, just fish that walk on land and little, little things that are kind of like see-through and almost microscopic, but that just make it up rock walls. There's really something to be, kind of admired in all this. So the way that the Megunticook is, there were probably other diagonous fish that access part of the river, but it does get us onto kind of the idea of history and what we want to say about what our environment is and what it means to us and how things can be confusing and magical at the same time. That we have this section of the river that is very much in the confines of the Megunticook River, which is the area that we're, all caring about together. And all of the important diagenous fish species that the management organizations are focused on are present in our river. So it's really about, do we do something for all of these fish species which are here now, not really worrying too much about whether they've been here in history. So the Atlantic salmon is basically extinct in the state of Maine. I think it's listed as endangered, but the numbers are so low that it is extinct in many rivers. Yet there are still salmon that stray into the estuary and other estuaries looking for new habitat. There are brook trout, which are species with careful protections around them in the state, wild ones, and especially the most rare wild sea-run brook trout, most rare of the rare. They're here in the Megunticook River in our estuary, and that's just a couple on the long list of fish that are highly recognizable that we all we know a little something about, but perhaps we didn't know that they are all here right now, depending on the estuary. And it's not necessarily the health of the Megunticook that makes them stray into the estuary, that it is so good they come here to feed, or that it's so good they come here for the nutrients, for the oxygen content, or anything like that. Those are diagenous fish straying along the coast like they do, looking for an opportunity to reestablish spawning habitat or to establish spawning habitat, just like they have done and evolved to do since the last ice age. So that's a history that is really interesting to also kind of overlay on any other timelines that we're thinking about, is how all of those 12 diagenous fish that are important from a management concern have had various stocks in the past, and over industrialization and dams being a major part of the way that we orient our lives. Those diagenous fish are at a different state right now. And there's good news all around the Megunticook watershed, from the St. George and duck trout and the Passy and the Sheepshead River, and that's why alewives are straying and sturgeon are straying. It's why even though salmon are hanging on by a thread, they still stray. So fascinating and wonderful and mysterious and questions.
So what's really interesting to me is that the interconnectivity of all those watersheds and how it's not one watershed that supports a fish or types of fish, but because they're thriving in other watersheds, they're present here. So this interconnectivity, and I think Nate touched upon it, but I think it's a point that's really interesting and few people know this so thank you so much for sharing that. It's super cool. Ray has a question.
I can picture how the eels or the elders get up the river and everything like that. How does the sea run brook trout do it? How are there, you said there's sea run brook trout in the river, how do they get there?
They swim the intercoastal along the inshore waters, so if they're from the Duck Trap River, then they stray south down into Camden Harbor. If they're from the St. George River, then they stray north into this one,
Okay,
where you depend on
yeah.
the food
Mhm.
that's.
All right, so they're already there and they're already getting there. They're bypassing Montgomery Dam, basically what you're saying, right?
No, there are no no diagonous fish at all above Montgomery Dam, other than the American.
There are some,
Okay.
there are some that run off, the brook,
Brook.
under Atlantic Avenue.
On Atlantic Avenue, exactly.
Okay, yes,
Right, because I found that, I found that,
a tributary of the
Does not.
river.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, right.
It does
Yeah,
not connect.
okay,
to
Well,
Megunticook.
I mean, different watershed in one respect, but I mean.
For our definition.
If that's the river mouth, then that little brook comes into.
Okay,
The stream that runs under Atlantic Avenue, we're studying the estuary.
Yeah.
It's part.
You know where Rockbrook is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it continues on down to the American Bookshed, or the, bookshed.
Right next to the-
Oh, that's- Yeah, yeah,
That-
and if you go down now, you can see the nets are up. Oh, yes, the nets are up, yes, for the Alberts, and they're fishing at low tide this morning, I think was.
Yes.
30,
Right.
yeah, so you can see the nets, they are up in the harbor. And the other thing that I found to go on is that there is an alewives map, do you know that, in the state of Maine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty up on the website.
An alewives map, yeah. Yeah.
A fish section.
Produced by Fish and Wildlife,
Maine Rivers.org.
and Rivers.
Any more questions on it? Thank you, Seth. See, I think we should organize like a, let's all go down, see the nets and the elvers and just go, yeah. Just have the community say, hey, we'll be there. That's something also we can put to Facebook, whatever. Members of the community are gonna go and take a look at this, join us for a conversation. Something not all our events need to be super formal and structured and everything. You can just, if you wanna, let's find a day to do that. I would love to do that. I would also love to see those walking on land. Well, I'm trying to keep tabs on the midnight and the salamanders, because I have a special affinity for that. But the eels on land, I mean, that's gonna start ranking really high on my life experience. All right, do you wanna talk about, the story photo contest?
Yeah, maybe it needs to go with a subcommittee, but, we were thinking that would be a great, feature for the committee. We talked about a little bit with, Seth and Maggie when we had our, agenda planning meeting. And, perhaps it's something we start to advertise. Maybe it would fit under the education subcommittee. And then maybe, on October 22nd, when we have our festival, maybe, announce the winners then. So we were merely just floating the concept to everybody and see what people think, and if it should be.
I would add drawings also, because some people are super good at drawing and kids also can painting, drawings, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we can have a little exhibit or something, because I think, and the idea was, tell us the story of yourself with the river through a photo or drawing or even just a one-page story telling. So that we can get more information. How do people relate to the river? What's their own experience? Is it looking at the fish and the elvers? Is it listening to the falls? What is it? What makes this river so particular in our lives? I would love to see that through picture, sound, whatever, like multimedia, uploaded video, things like that.
And have some prizes, maybe
Yeah.
Sport would donate a prize.
Wildlife, taking pictures of spots along the river, can you find it?
Yeah, we can, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like where, yeah, they could be like, where, where you can,
It'd be fun to get, more youth involved, and this was one way to certainly do it. But, open to all ages, but certainly kids.
we can keep that up quickly on the website and we can enroll the class and all our networks.
If it's targeted kids, you get much more response than to adults like.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
we can engage the students and the teachers, watershed.
Yeah,
can we fold this into the education subcommittee? And, professional video, we can maybe put that aside for a little bit.
Right.
Not this one.
Well, if we turn this into a video, we could
You could? Yeah.
one long video of all pretty big.
Let's harvest.
On that same kind of top, I have 2 points to add. We moved away from the May 20 date, but I guess I would just put a call out LP or Courtney. If there is a way for this community to be involved in the May 20 poetry, I forget what it was called.
Festival.
Poetry festival,
Well, yeah. well,
let us know, or, if there's anything we can do to, be part of it. And then the other thing I didn't mention to the whole group is I had a nice Zoom with Robin, Dooley, is that right? That Courtney connected me to her, so she's a teacher at the Watershed School, and the students are looking for projects, so we, had a Zoom and had some ideas yesterday of ways that the students could engage with the river. One of the things that we kind of have honed in on is maybe having them do some stormwater outfall monitoring. I haven't reconnected with her, I told her we would think about it, but, and we also have some, like a herpetologist on staff, so maybe offering the students a day where we go to a vernal pool and we talk about the ecology of the vernal pool. But she did say that this is a course that comes up every spring. So the students could establish a monitoring project this spring, but it could happen every year.
They're like continuous projects like that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think they're sophomores and juniors, so pretty, smart kids, and they've done some incredible projects.
Courtney, do you or LP know, does the Watershed School or any other school do river testing, monitoring,
Yeah,
like the volunteers do on the St.
They
George?
might have done this.
we talked about that a little bit, Robin and I did, unless you wanna.
No.
So, yeah, she was saying that she's like, she was looking at our gap analysis, and she's like, we actually, the students and teachers at all of these schools, she mentioned a few specific ones, are out there like doing projects on the river and collecting data. She said, for example, a lot of the classrooms do microinvertebrate sampling, but she said no one's keeping that data. So it's not like stored in a database anywhere. So I did mention to her, like, if you have a student who's interested in data, building a database where like all the schools can put that data somewhere would be really interesting.
Salesforce Foundation can probably give them a free database.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Say again, what'd you say?
Salesforce Foundation, they have a nonprofit.
Okay.
And originally Salesforce is a customer relationship management platform,
Okay.
but I've used it to create a database for monitoring and evaluation. And they love the types of projects and especially with these schools. So it could be, I can do it.
Thank you, that would be really neat.
cool. So
So then
then
we
all
all
the
want to lose
schools,
all of that.
exactly, then all the schools can tap into the database.
Well, there's lots of citizen science things that
Yes,
are up and running.
yeah. Any other topic? It's 10 to 12 to 6, all right, Tyler.
As I was reading through some of our answers to questions out there, I'm wondering whether we should start to compile a list of objectives of a solution to the watershed. Because I think in here, there was a comment in there that said that one of the town's goals was to create a solution without the need for human adjustment of the gates. And I don't really, like, when I went back and looked at our scope and purpose, it was so like, that wasn't included in that. And I'm wondering whether there should be like we should start to develop that matrix, especially as we meet with the Save the Dam Falls group, or these different people that have interests in it, to figure out what is, with the solution to either particular dams or the whole watershed whole, what is your objective?
That would be part of the survey, I think.
Yeah, I think it really is part of that, or I think it's part of that too.
Now, the new, gate and controls and everything out of the, west dam, is that manually done now still?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And is there a way to reconfigure that so it can be done electronically or not?
Depends on how much money.
Yeah, well, everything depends how much money you got, but it is possible.
A lot of it's just experience and intuition. My understanding of the maintenance is like just guessing, like, okay, we haven't had a storm in a while, like let's say it's October, you know, we need to like, I mean, they let out a lot of water in like right before that crazy October storm we had. And thank God they did, because it made a huge difference, but my understanding was just like pure intuition, pure like, you know, so I think, I don't know, that would make me really worried. I don't think it's a little worried if I hardly think that there's a human taking care of that.
I think you're still thinking human, but the human might be.
Pushing a button.
Pushing a button.
Pushing a button.
Yeah.
Instead of.
It's very like,
It takes-
everybody should have an app.
It takes two people to do it on the way it used to be set up, and as soon as it's due at the West Dam also,
It used to be, not anymore.
not anymore, just one person can
Just
handle
one.
that. Yeah, okay, good.
I guess I'm just trying
Yeah, so,
to feel like we can start to capture some of those
Yeah, yeah.
objectives and the different stakeholders.
yeah. So how do we go about doing that? Is that something we tweak into the survey?
I mean, to me, I think it's a list that we should be building all along, because I think when you come up with any sort of proposed solutions, I think that's what you're weighing against.
Right, you come from.
It either, you
You
know,
wanna take a-
builds this or,
You wanna take a stab at it and share it with us?
again,
Tyler, something you said earlier, I wanted to revisit. The FAQs that we put together, we looked at questions and then like we wrote these questions, they're not verbatim what people
Right.
submitted.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that I was clear about that.
I think that's okay.
Okay,
Because I
that was
think
kind of what
we're-
we had decided, is to
I think
like.
we're
pull
gonna-
in themes.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna get, similar questions coming from multiple sources that
Yeah, that are basically the same.
are the same, but perhaps worded differently.
Just wanted to make sure everyone knew that's how we approached it.
So we have the parking lot, but guess what? No, we've tackled everything on the parking lot except the property rights, but that's up for Rick to tell us either if you want them to keep it on the parking lot. If he's parking it, in the parking lot and.
We did talk about having the river path as part of that June walk, like one of the stations would be the river walk.
What was the question?
Want to understand how municipalities handle private property rights and river walkways.
Right.
And you said, you said that it's something that you might want to look into. So we put it on the parking lot and it hasn't risen to the level of interest or like something the community can take on. And periodically, we're just gonna remind you, and there's no pressure. If you want to drop in and say, I have zero time for this, don't ever ask me yet, it's fine too.
I think it should stay on the parking lot.
Okay.
But partly, you know, this discussion we had earlier about exploring various parts of the river. I think one of the things that would serve this discussion long-term is having more people see the absurdity of having it's not even a 1/10 of a mile section, but from the skateboard park to the rusty wrought iron fence next to the sanitary district, and then see the Japanese knotwood, and then,
Yeah, which is the wetland.
right, well,
Yeah,
thank goodness, native. So I think, I wouldn't use the word outrage, but maybe, I think we just need more people to be like, this is ridiculous.
So maybe that's something that will come up after the river walk.
Right.
Maybe something we can tackle at that time. So we'll keep it on the parking lot, but we won't ask until after the river wall.
Right, I think organically,
Yeah.
that conversation might be a little more robust
Yeah.
after more people have,
I've seen
you
it.
know, firsthand.
Yeah.
Is there a way to do that in the survey? Is that you just ask that question? Like, is there a question that we could ask, like, would you like to see? No, I don't know how to word it.
Yeah, I-
But I'm
not
just
yet.
saying, like,
I think,
it's dangerous.
let the thing,
Simmer.
yeah, and
Let's
let
see.
people, like, just seeing it firsthand be, they're like, oh, I never even thought about that, that's,
Right.
or.
I think people don't think that possibility, to be honest.
Yeah.
And even going back to the nice section that by Seabright Dam, but, you know, there's not gonna be any motivation to consider possibilities for extending it.
Yeah.
Where there are presently private property owners who
Yeah.
probably don't want people strolling across their property. Let that happen organically a little bit maybe first, and then,
And I would love is, I mean, because when you go around Cigar right now, which I do often with my dog, because he can run. But going on the other side is completely unpleasant.
right?
It's like it breaks the whole, zen place you are in.
So we're gonna, is that gonna be part of our walk, to walk
Yeah.
people to the wrought iron gate?
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry, this is.
It actually is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let people come do it. Right?
Experience it
Yeah.
themselves, absolutely. Oh, cool.
Touch the rusty fence. Is that native rust?
Let's make sure they all have their tetanus shots.
Yes.
Let's do that. Cool. Any other last thoughts?
The only thing that I think we were gonna maybe table or email was a discussion about, do we want to have our next speaker after him, the indigenous people's speaker, or,
No, I think we're gonna do the dam management.
but we didn't decide, we didn't have a discussion.
Maybe we should vote about that.
Yeah, I think I need to vote.
I will say like logistically, like it is, we've already like asked him if he's free on that day, so.
Right, and I feel like we're doing Ken Gross's history, we can at least do the.
It would be cool to do it in
It's
order.
not history, because it's.
So Susan, you're the one who raised the concern that it was not the right time.
Right, and the only reason I brought it up is because I really think that there are very pressing questions that maybe should come first.
Yeah, let me make a suggestion then, that maybe we could have the State of the Dams presentation at our monthly meeting.
Yes.
I think that's right.
And we can make that, carve that time out, so maybe we can do it all.
Oh my goodness, we never talked about the format of the speaker series.
It's great, it's perfect, the prep is awesome.
You're doing
Length is
great.
good.
Oh, right.
What do you need to know?
Oh, yeah. I missed that.
The speakers.
Mike did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Mike gave a lot of time because he met with me like 4 times.
I
I don't expect that everyone.
We have, if you wanna bring it up really.
The
quickly.
videos, so. Committee members, like, were on video, and then the last one you all were not on video, so it was just like Mike and I and the answer.
That was good.
I thought that was great.
Oh, you liked that better?
I actually thought.
Yeah, I miss seeing you, but that's.
I missed the pro faces, but the very beginning and very end, but during, I found it distracting. People.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
knowing that I was, you know, see me,
Thank you.
don't like it.
Is there a reason not to show everybody who comes along? Like, how many people, I have no sense of how many people.
Yeah, totally. We've been tracking all the people that have attended, so it's been, I wanna say like 16 to 25 or so.
Okay.
Does that include us, or is that others?
Separate, yeah. I can give you the exact numbers of.
Board ever gets.
Say what?
It's more than the select board ever does.
That's a controversial night.
Yeah, we call it cannabis time.
Logistically, the difference is that right now, as a webinar format, which is how we've done it. We have to choose people to elevate them to the panelists, and then only panelists can see all like the questions that have come in.
Yeah.
And when you're a member of the public, you can submit your question, but you're not like seeing everything else that everyone else has submitted, which does allow like, you know, when I ask Mike some questions, I can look through and try to like pick some themes, or, you know, like last time I was trying to pick some committee questions and some public questions to make sure everyone was well represented. If we did have everyone on video, then people could unmute themselves and speak. We could have that if we wanted. It just allows for like the conversation to go in.
Or just mute everybody.
I think having the committee as balanced is, I mean, when we have speaker coming here, you're gonna be seen as balanced de facto. And if it allows you to read the question, I think it's a good thing too, because then you can see, what the topics raise in terms of questions. But let's put it to the vote. This seems to be good. It's evenly split, if I understand correctly.
Well, there's a few different scenarios. There's one where you can see everybody beginning and end, but they can't speak at all. And there's just written questions, or you can see them beginning and they can speak. Or you can't see anything ever, except for.
We have to like elevate and then probably like demote. It's that, the whole beginning and end thing is a cool idea, but if we do it as a webinar, it's
That's
such a
okay,
little
I don't know.
funny.
So is it hard to?
We would like have to like demote everyone. Janice has been doing that, it's been great. Promote everyone, demote everyone.
Can you, at the very end, so everybody can see each other? I guess what I'm getting at is, it'd be so nice to know, like Elsie said, like, I don't even know who is here. And it would be nice to see. Or at least just have our faces up for.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe
a
don't do it
week
at the
or
beginning,
something.
just do it at the end.
Yeah, like, this is who's here if they wanna give away, but the question is, I think, do we want to let people verbally ask questions or write them down, because I can see your point that it's much easier, it's just written.
I think it's easier to keep it written, because people can go really
Yeah.
on a tangent.
Yeah.
Take a time.
Yeah.
It's hard to, it's like heard that in the moment, whereas if it's written, it's much
So
clearer.
the consensus seems to be that everybody sees everyone at the end, like the last 15 minutes, maybe, something like that. And questions are written in the Q&A.
Okay, so everyone, including the public, has a video at the end?
That's what we're just saying, Courtney, or just the panelists?
Up to everybody, I mean, I think I'd like to see everyone, I guess, but at least that.
Okay.
What does everyone think?
Well, let's do everybody next time and see how it works. Because we're on time.
As long as we don't get like 100 people and then James, like, trying to promote everything.
Next co-chair would be Ellen, since we missed you.
Yeah,
If you're ready to go, and then Rick will be last, and then we'll be back to Ray.
No, I'm last. No, Susan, yeah.
Changing, I wanna be last. I don't get your word right. Usually I'm.
Yeah, you're last, sorry.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for another excellent reading of the.